Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in the world on the 9th of April of 2026. Today we have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk once again about the situation between the United States of America and the NATO organization. During the previous 24 hours, the President Trump made a lot of very important statements. Once again, let's discuss them in details. NATO wasn't there when we needed them, and they won't be there if we need them again. Remember Greenland, that big, poorly run piece of ice. That was stated by the President of the United States of America, and later we received the report that the President of States, Trump, had a meeting with the General Secretary of NATO, Mark Rutte, and they were talking about something. They were talking about something very important, and later we received a very interesting article on this matter. Trump issues Europe a new ultimatum for support in the Strait of Hormuz. The United States is ramping up pressure on European allies to take a military role in the Strait of Hormuz. According to Der Spiegel, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has informed European capitals that Trump expects concrete commitments within days, such as sending warship or other military assets. So this is the most important thing and the most important part of the statement, or other military assets. We will discuss this in a minute. General political statements are no longer considered sufficient. European diplomats say Trump's demand amounts to an ultimatum following his meeting with Rutte. Germany has indicated general willingness to join the mission, but only under conditions such as United Nations mandate and either a lasting ceasefire or negotiated truce. So this is a very important situation. So when summarizing everything and simply saying, the President of the United States of America demanded either a fleet of the European countries in the area of the Strait of Hormuz, or most likely air defense systems and radars. So as for this article, it is called once again another equipment. So either concrete steps such as sending warships or other military assets. So when talking about other military assets, most likely the President of the United States of America demanded air defense systems like Patriot systems, maybe NASAM systems, maybe THAAD systems. So everything that the United States of America can have from the European countries, from the NATO organization, it wants to have in the area of the Middle East. And it seems that the European countries don't have any other option but to make a decision either to send ships, either to send fleet in this area with the purpose to support the United States of America in upcoming second phase or the second round of the conflict on the territory of the Middle East, or to give the Americans air defense systems. So it's up to the European countries to make this difficult choice, either ships or air defense systems. But telling the truth, and most likely the President of the United States of America understands this, that most likely the European countries will not give air defense systems and the Patriot missiles to the United States of America, as for example Poland did in the past. They didn't give the Americans their Patriot systems because they said that they need these systems to protect the eastern border of the European Union. So which means that most likely this situation and these demands of the President of the United States of America will force the states like France, Germany, the United Kingdom, Spain and Italy and maybe even Poland to send everything they have. We are talking about military ships in the area of the Middle East. But telling the truth, this is also not a very good idea, because it seems that the United States of America are trying to force the European countries to send their fleet into a trap, because it seems that there is a trap somewhere in the Arabian Sea, in the area of the Persian Gulf and the in the Strait of Mandeb, and it seems that Trump doesn't want to get into this trap, and first he wants to send the European ship to check this trap and to understand whether it's safe and secure to send additional forces in this area from his side as well. We will discuss this in a second, because the situation is quite complicated and quite interesting. So let's discuss everything once again. Currently, why this situation where the ships of the European countries entering the area of Arabian Sea could be a trap for the European countries? Once again, according to information we have and according to this situation, the Iranians physically control the Strait of Hormuz and they don't allow anybody to cross this area. And if anybody tries to cross this area without additional permission from the Iranian side, this vessel, this commercial vessel, most likely will be attacked and destroyed by the Iranian side. And if this ceasefire, if the current ceasefire is broken, or if the coalition continue attacking the territory of Iran, its energy infrastructure, its nuclear infrastructure, if the coalition continue their operation in the southern parts of Lebanon with the purpose to create a buffer zone, this can lead to the situation when Houthis, the Yemenis, will close the Strait of Mandeb. So we are talking about this territory. So let's add these situations, these things to the map. So according to possible scenarios of the developments, the Strait of Mandeb could be closed by the Iranians or pro-Iranian proxies, and the Strait of Hormuz could be closed by the Iranian side as well. So, but this is of course not the only roads that the European countries and the NATO countries and the United States of America can use for their purposes, because it's just commercial roads. But there is another important detail that most of sources have missed and didn't pay additional attention on this matter. So I would like to discuss with you a very interesting article that was published today by different sources, and we are talking about this one. Putin secures another strategic ally as Trump focuses on Iran. So this is a very important article, and I would like to point your attention and to read this article carefully. Bloomberg: while the US was at war with Iran, Russia strengthened its position in Africa. As newspaper notes, Moscow has gained a new strategic partner, Madagascar, where a military leadership came to power after a coup. Russia immediately began building relationships with new elite. Madagascar is located on the key oil transportation road, ranks fourth in the world in cobalt production, a key material for battery production, and is second only to China in graphite production, which is also used in batteries and furnish linings. So when talking about this situation, experts note that for Madagascar's new government, an alliance with Russia is, among other things, a way to reduce dependence on Europe. So let's go to the map and let's try to find out and to understand where exactly the state of Madagascar is located. And this is the state of Madagascar. This is basically an island, and as you can see, this island is located in the area of Mozambique Channel. So this area, and it seems that both roads we just discussed could be closed to the north of this area. And if Russia indeed is in a very good relations with Madagascar, and probably a coup happens on the territory of the state, and most likely due to the fact that the Russians are in a very good relations with the state, it seems that the Russians probably was behind this coup that was carried out by the military forces. And of course, if escalation happens, if additional escalation happens, and even not between the United States of America and, let's say, the state of Iran, but probably between Europe and the state of Iran, and not just Europe and the state of Iran, but Europe and the Russian Federation, the Russians can close using probably Madagascar proxies or something like this to close the Mozambique Channel, or to make something similar as the Iranians and the Yemenis are trying to create around the Strait of Hormuz and the Strait of Mandeb, to take additional fees for every single vessel or tanker that move through this area, and to take additional dollar, let's say, per barrel of oil. So something similar may happen then. And furthermore, from this perspective, if the European countries moves their forces and their fleet in this area from these positions, it will be very difficult for them to take their fleet back from this area, because obviously the Strait of Hormuz would be closed, but there is no straight passage to the Mediterranean Sea, the Strait of Mandeb would be closed, and who knows what kind of risk the European fleet can face if they try to cross the island and to cross around and near off the shore of the island of Madagascar. Everything is possible. Why I'm saying that everything is possible when talking about the European fleet, because something similar right now is happening in the waters that are surround the European continent and the NATO countries. We're talking about the Mediterranean Sea, and we're talking about North Sea. So what is happening right now in this area? As we know, this is the Russian Federation, and they have access to the Black Sea. The Russians have access to the Baltic Sea, and using these two international waters, the Russians are exporting their oil and gas, let's say, through this possible road of export. So let's say this is the first one, and this is the second one through the area of the Baltic Sea, then through the Greece, and then entering Mediterranean Sea, and then the Russians are able to move in any part of the world with their oil and with their gas. But several days ago, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom stated that the United Kingdom will arrest or seize or stop every single ship that belongs to the shadow fleet of the Russian Federation if this ship come very close to the state waters of the United Kingdom. This is a very important statement that was made by the Prime Minister. He stated that I am determined to protect the British people from paying the price for Putin's aggression in their household bills. That is why we will not shy away from taking action and exposing Russia's destabilizing activity that seeks to test our resolve. So this is exactly what is he talking about. Another important thing is that during the previous 24 hours, a group of ships crossed the English Channel, while British warships followed them at a distance. And today was the first case since the beginning of the conflict, since the beginning probably of this century, when the Russian commercial ships probably belongs to the Shadow Fleet were convoyed and were protected by the Russian military ship, the Russian frigate Admiral Grigorovich. So they managed to pass the English Channel without any problems, without any, let's say, problems from the side of the United Kingdom or France or any other state in this area. And the project 356R frigate Admiral Grigorovich escorted two sanctioned tankers through the English Channel: Universal under the flag of Russia and Enigma under the Cameroonian flag. The procession was shadowed by the Royal Navy support ship Tide Force, but it took no action. It should be noted that earlier the British Tide Force took part in the seizure of the Russian Turkic Marinera, also known as Bella 1, in the Atlantic Ocean, providing logistical support for the US Navy. So this is the situation. So the Prime Minister promised to take everything under control, but he did nothing. Furthermore, during the previous 24 hours, another important statement was made by the United Kingdom. The Minister of Defense stated that a military operation against Russian submarines involving over 500 British personnel has concluded after lasting over a month. UK Defense Minister John Gilly stated that the British government is aware of Russian activity near their cables and pipelines, warning of serious consequences if they are damaged. Gilly emphasized that any attempt to harm British underwater infrastructure would be unacceptable. The United Kingdom's underwater network is highly resilient, but the number of threats against it is constantly increasing. The operation was a response to Russian activity, with Gilly stating that the British government is fulfilling its duty to protect the country. So it sounds like a false flag operation, it seems, for one purpose: to give the legal rights and legal possibilities to do whatever the United Kingdom wants with the Russian fleet if it approaches the territory of the United Kingdom. Another important thing that we received also from this area is, according to different sources and media, Ukraine allegedly prepares attacks on Russian vessels in the Barents and Norwegian Seas with the help of Norway's Navy specialists, citing a military diplomatic source. So basically, from all these statements and all these things that we have discussed, we see that the European countries, the United Kingdom, and probably its allies are trying to create something like a block zone for the Russians in this area, with the situation, with the purpose not to allow any commercial ship of the Russian Federation to cross this area and to stop Russian export exactly through this territory. And we see that the infrastructure, the media, things and everything have been already prepared and made. And this is the situation in this part. Of course, as we discussed, there is another road that the Russians can use through the area of the Black Sea, but today we received another important statement, an article published by different sources, that according to information we have, Ukraine attacked a Russian gas carrier from a secret base in Libya. Two Libyan officials claimed that Kiev used unmanned boats to attack a Russian-linked vessel in the Mediterranean, an operation reportedly supported by Western partners. Separate reports indicate that over 2 Ukrainian military personnel were deployed to Libya for drone training and possible military cooperation. I would like to remind you that at the beginning of the conflict on the territory of the Middle East, we received a report that Russian commercial ships were attacked in the area of Malta, right to the north of Libya. So if you remember, we received these pictures and this video of gas tanker that was moving through this area and that was attacked by Navy drones of the armed forces of Ukraine. Another important thing that from this configuration, from this situation, we see that the infrastructure to block the Mediterranean Sea for the Russian Federation is also ready. And when talking about this territory, we see that the Russians most likely have no chances to use their military convoys, military ships to secure their vessels that are moving through this area. So we see that European countries and the NATO countries, and let's say the enemies of Russia, have already prepared the infrastructure to block these two territories and not to allow the Russians to move oil and gas through this area. And now we see something similar that the Russian Federation and its allies are trying to create around the Persian Gulf. And now we see that the President of the United States of America is asking the European countries either to redeploy their air defense forces in this region or to redeploy a fleet. But due to the situation that the Russians have two strong missiles and two powerful missiles and nuclear weapons, of course, the European countries will not give their air defense systems and missiles in the direction of the Middle East, and they will prefer to give the President Trump ships. Maybe they will try to not give anything to the President of the United States of America, but this could lead to completely unpredictable consequences from the US side, and who knows what the President Trump will do in this situation and in this case. So we see that everything is complicated, and we see that most likely oil prices will continue growing. As for the end of the 9th of April of 2026, the oil prices were on the level of $100 per barrel. We received this report today. We have different pictures. So, for example, this morning the oil prices were on the level of $96. And right before I start making this video, the oil prices reached the level of $100 per barrel, for example, for WTI. So, and most likely the oil prices will continue growing, and the negotiation process on the territory of Pakistan and Islamabad won't help the United States of America to stabilize the situation, because it seems that the European countries found a solution how to press Trump not to give him neither fleets nor missiles nor air defense systems, and the European countries are trying to play the game by the name of Lebanon included, either Lebanon included or not in the ceasefire. I would like to remind that currently this is the biggest and the main problem between the United States of America, the coalition, and basically the rest of the world, because J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States of America, stated that nobody thought that the Lebanon, from the US and from the Israeli side, that Lebanon is included into the negotiation process. This is the statement of J.D. Vance, and we said that the ceasefire would be focused on Iran and American allies, but not on Lebanon or something like this. I think the situation with Lebanon is reasonable misunderstanding. Neither we nor the Israelis said that Lebanon was going to be a part of the ceasefire. But now we see that a very strong coalition of different states and countries was created on this matter. We see that at least the state of Pakistan is in this coalition. Pakistan says that Lebanon must be as a part of this possible ceasefire and truth. Furthermore, the Prime Minister of Spain stated that Lebanon must be included in the ceasefire. The President of France stated that the ceasefire must be fully include Lebanon. This is indispensable. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom said, "We condemn the escalation in Lebanon and demanded the conflict between Israel and Lebanon be included in the ceasefire terms." Also, we have report made by the Prime Minister of Australia. He also said that the Australian government also firmly believes that the ceasefire has to apply to Lebanon as well. So as you can see, the world seems that united against the will and the position of the coalition. And as we can see, this is a very interesting game and very difficult to say who has stronger cards, either Trump and the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, or the Russians with Chinese and the Iranians, or the European Union with Ukraine. But one thing is clear, in coming days we will understand everything. As of now, we see that the Strait of Hormuz is under complete control of the Iranian sides, and they start charging ships and vessels in this area with additional fees. According to information, we have $1 per barrel. We have reports that Iran will allow no more than 15 vessels per day to pass through the Strait of Hormuz under the ceasefire deal and so on. So the situation is complicated, and it seems that currently nobody can change anything. The only way to change the situation in the area of Iran is to bring the entire fleet of the European countries, the current fleet of the United States of America, and of course lots of troops that can land and to secure the southern parts of Iran. Without this, no progress will be observed in coming months. Now let's discuss the situation in Ukraine. According to information we have, during the previous 24 hours, very heavy clashes were recorded along the line of combat contact. But probably the most important update is that the Russians began using new drones, new generation drones, the drones of 4th and 5th generations, which are very powerful and much stronger than the drones we used to see since the beginning of the special military operation. We're talking about grand drones of the 1st, 2nd, and the 3rd generations. Once again, let's discuss this video. So this is the video that was published by a pro-Russian source, and here we can see grand drone of the 4th generation in action. A very powerful drone with very powerful warhead and with a very big range and big and very fast drone. Up to 300 kilometers is the limit speed for this drone, but this is the same limits for the Ukrainian anti-drone. According to information we have, the Ukrainian systems, anti-drone systems, can get the same speed, which means that the 4th generation drones is already not something dangerous for the Ukrainian side. But the 5th generation drones are very, very, very dangerous for the Ukrainian side because their speed is more than 300 kilometers, and they can attack the territory Ukraine and attack objects on the territory Ukraine with a speed of more than 350 kilometers. And according to information from the open source, the Ukrainian anti-drones can reach just the speed of 300 kilometers per hour, which means that they cannot attack and they cannot do anything with these 5th generation grand drones. And of course, if the Russians are able to start production of these drones of the 5th generation, as they produce right now drones of the 1st, second and the third generations, we're talking about hundreds per day. This could be a game changer. This is going to be something that will break the conflict completely, because with these drones and of course with communication, it will be very difficult to imagine what the Ukrainians are going to do, because the only way how to bring down these drones is to use PAC-3 air defense missiles of the Patriot system, and we know that there is a huge shortage of this missile in the world, not just in Ukraine. As for the situation on the ground, during the previous 24 hours, we received lots of updates, lots of videos, but not lots of changes. The Russians, according to information we have, are keeping advancing in the direction of Orekhov, but as you can see, without changes on the ground. The Ukrainians improved their positions in the to the north of the settlement of Tirnovata. We have this video where we can see how Russians were attacking vehicles of the armored forces of Ukraine in the central part of the settlement and in the southern parts as well. Based on this video, we have adjusted the map, so this is the current situation. As for the Dobropolye direction, pro-Ukrainian sources confirmed that the Russians were keeping advancing in this area, getting deeper and deeper inside of the Dnipropetrovsk region, but without huge changes. The same situation is in the Konstantinovka direction, but here we have small changes. Additional contested area and the infiltration zone was added, and nothing special, nothing more. As for the northern directions, during the previous 24 hours, we received several videos from the Kivsharovka pocket. In this video, we can see how Russians were attacking positions, securing positions, former positions of the armored forces of Ukraine. At this point, as you can see, the Russians were securing these trenches and strongholds very far from the possible line of combat contact, according to the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, which means that maybe pro-Russian maps and the reports of the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation is not 100% fits the reality. And that's it for today. The Military Summary channel reminds us to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.